Bringer of Rain Boxing here, folks. Just wanted to make a quick video here and talk about some interesting logic I've seen from a certain contingent of the Errol Spence Jr. fans / detractors of Manny Pacquiao. I think the people who, for whatever reason, dislike Manny Pacquiao have kind of bled into, the Errol Spence Jr. fan base. It's like, before this fight, I never knew that Errol Spence had so many fans, but it turns out that, even the most loved figures, be it sports or celebrities, whatever, they have their fair amount of haters for whatever reason that you just can't control. If you're popular enough, there's going to be just people who don't like you and sometimes people that hate you. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about here, and I think I have a pretty good vantage point when it comes to gauging fan reactions and opinions on this fight, because I've made a ton of videos and it's gotten a lot of feedback. My videos on this fight has, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what people are saying about this fight. And it seems like, to me, the people who are choosing Errol Spence Jr. to win the fight, most of them are not just picking him to win via a close decision or, a competitive back and forth type of fight. Most of the people who are choosing him to win are saying it's going to be a domination, a bloodbath, and this and that. But what I think is interesting is that the same people who are choosing him to win by dominating fashion are a lot of times the same people, and I've seen this numerous times on my YouTube channel. These are the same people who claim Manny Pacquiao's career is fabricated, that it was closely managed and cherry-picked, and discredit his accomplishments because he was able to choose the perfect opponent at opportune times. Now, circling back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video, it's interesting to me because, the same people who claim that Manny Pacquiao's career is just mostly a cherry-pick fest are picking Errol Spence to dominate him and basically just ragdoll him out of the ring like he's nothing. But this doesn't make sense to me. If Manny Pacquiao is a cherry picker and chose opponents who are tailor-made to fit his style his entire career, then why would he choose Errol Spence if Spence is the guy and the type of fighter that can dominate him in brutal fashion? Folks, this is going to bleed into the point that I'm going to make here. I'm actually going to somewhat agree with the notion that Manny Pacquiao has chosen his career wisely. He's been managed by people wisely. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I think you could actually say that with any great champion in boxing history. They choose matchups at times that are advantageous to their style, and also just fights that make exciting fights for the fans, because people want to see action and be entertained right at the end of the day. I'm not so biased and subjective that I'm not going to acknowledge the fact that, yes, Pacquiao has chosen opponents for a reason throughout his entire career. But what I'll disagree with is the notion that, yes, he chooses opponents carefully and he's going to get knocked out brutally. See, those 2 points don't make sense to me. I think he chose Errol Spence Jr. for a reason, just like he chose every other opponent he's ever fought in his career. To the people who think Manny Pacquiao is going to get blasted out, do you guys realize that? Manny Pacquiao is not an idiot here. He's been in this game for a long time. He's seen every kind of style that there is. I highly doubt that he would choose an opponent who he believes he has no chance against. And to the people that think this is a passing of the torch fight and he's just going to go in there and pass the torch, tell me what you've seen in training camp and in the pre-fight buildup that have led you to realistically believe that Manny Pacquiao is looking to just lay down for this fight. Now, I've seen the body language from fighters who were close to hanging it up, and they just didn't have the same bounce and the same pep in their step in training camp. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen nothing of the such to suggest that is the case in this fight for Manny Pacquiao. He's actually exceeding expectations in the eyes of Justin Fortune and Freddie Roach. He's looking a little bit sharper and leaner than that they previously expected. So I just want to say Manny Pacquiao chose Errol Spence Jr. for a reason here, folks. The sheer fact that he decided to sign the dotted line tells me that he sees weaknesses in his game, that Manny Pacquiao watches these big fights. He was at Errol Spence Jr.'s fight with Mikey Garcia. He might have been at the same fight with, he might have been also at the Danny Garcia fight. And Manny Pacquiao has identified weaknesses and holes in Errol Spence's game that he believes he can exploit, just like this is the same process he goes through with every fighter. It's why he chose Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman had weaknesses and looked to be vulnerable in certain ways. That's why Manny Pacquiao chose him. You can go down the list of his entire career. Folks, he's not getting brutalized. He's not getting knocked out. Get out of dreamland. Manny Pacquiao chose Errol Spence Jr. for a reason. There are certain physical advantages that I believe he has over Errol Spence. And I believe, there's this idea that it was Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. He chose Errol Spence Jr. because Terrence Crawford is a more dynamic and versatile fighter than Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford gets his head off the line more frequently. He's harder to hit. He's more elusive. I also believe probably pound for pound is the harder puncher than Errol Spence. I believe that Terrence Crawford has more dimensions to his game. He's probably a better counterpuncher. He could probably fight off of his back foot better. Is probably more adept at setting traps and luring Manny Pacquiao into counter right hands. And I believe that he's just overall not as flat-footed as Errol Spence, is more swift on his feet, is going to be able to, present more of a harder moving target for Manny Pacquiao. And that's just reality for me, folks. I'm not living in dreamland here. So we're 21 days away, guys. It's going to be a big, exciting show. I can't wait. But I'm just providing a dosage of reality here for the people who just believe that this fight is not going to be competitive at all. People are going to be shocked in those first 6 rounds. That's all I can say. When they see a guy who is beating the younger man to the punch early on in the fight, they're going to be surprised. Now, I can't speak for that second half of the fight, okay? I don't know what will happen when Manny Pacquiao's first reserve of energy goes down. None of us know. None of us will know until the 21st. Not even his coaches will know how he'll respond to that kind of adversity. If he can still reach that gear at 42, great. Errol Spence is in trouble. If not, then Errol Spence might outwork him. But what I'm trying to say here, folks, is just don't be so foolish to think that Manny Pacquiao voluntarily decided to walk right into the flames of hell. He didn't do that. He's smart. He knows how to choose his opponents, and that's exactly why this fight will be a very, very competitive affair that will surprise the Errol Spence fans / Manny Pacquiao haters. Quite frankly, I don't know which one is which now. They seem to be kind of blended into the same group. Anyway, Bringer of Rain, just checking in with you folks. Take care.